Hello and welcome to Nails and Hammers podcast. Our guest for today is Nishad Pai Vaidya, who is a sports anchor, writer, media manager, and the founder of Niche Sports. We talk with Nishad about his journey from growing up in Dubai to studying law to becoming a sports journalist, his IPL journey so far, his interactions with various cricketers, and finally talk about what he's currently doing at Niche Sports. We hope that you enjoy listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed talking to Nishad, and it's time to listen and learn. Hi Nishad, welcome to the Nails and Hammers podcast.
My pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. So great to chat with you guys. One in the US, one in Mumbai. It's really amazing.
So first of all, how's it going? How's the pandemic treating you?
Where I'll be I'll be lying if say it's been good. It's not, because it's something that should have never happened. And I know people say that the pandemic has given them an opportunity uh, to like rediscover, to go in spiritually. I don't think any of that is valid, because I think it's the worst thing. We can't say any of that stuff, because there are a lot of people who unfortunately have been affected in ways that we cannot imagine. A lot of people have lost their loved ones, including, I'm sure, some people would have lost their loved ones. So it's a very sad thing. It's not been the best, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I did do a lot more creative things in the time, but that was just to keep my mind occupied, which I wouldn't have done otherwise.
Yeah. So speaking of creative things, what all did you do?
So it initially started because what happened was, in a day back in March, I remember the date was March 13th, and that was the day everything got cancelled. Like one by one, my last assignment also got cancelled on that day. And I remember returning home, and I didn't leave the 1 kilometer radius of my house for the next few months up until the 30th of August, uh, because we were in a strict lockdown, and with family at home, obviously I had to be more careful. We didn't know what exactly we were dealing with, so it was just the 1 kilometer radius to get food and medicines. That's about it. And initially it was like, what am I going to do, then it was all about keeping my mind occupied. So it all started with live Instagram videos with a few cricketers, with a few celebs. And then later I felt, why not convert it into a YouTube channel. My initial plan was to take those live videos and put them on YouTube. But then what happened was, there were a couple of guys who said they were more comfortable just recording as we are right now, rather than do a live video. So I went ahead and I just did those recordings, and the recordings were made earlier, and then I came up with a different name for the channel, and then called Niche Sports, and then we put it up. I also was lucky that I got a chance to go and work on the IPL, which I have been doing for a few years. The fact that it came during such a tough time, it was really good. That is something I will always be grateful for, no doubt about it. And just getting a chance to go and work in the IPL, I think that, and this IPL that happened in the UAE will always be special and very close to my heart. So I think, yeah, that was it. And then after coming back, it's all been about going and doing stuff for Niche Sports. And unfortunately, like everyone, what had happened was, because of the pandemic, the media assignments that I had earlier, the media houses couldn't quite manage to give the same assignments again, which is why I had to branch out and do it on my own. So that's what it was all about.
Interesting, interesting. Nishad, we want to just start from the very beginning. So you grew up in Goa, then you shifted to Dubai, right? Would love to know more about where you always into sports. How was growing up in Dubai and stuff?
So I didn't grow up in Goa at all. I was born here in Mumbai,
Okay.
and I am of Goan origin. I do speak the
Alright.
language, and I've got my roots over there, and I'm quite tight knit within a lot of things with the Goan community. So, but then a lot of the habits as well, like food and all, I'm very much a Goan. But
Okay. And
yeah,
Susegar and stuff.
yeah, I mean, not that much, because I've grown up in Mumbai. So
Right.
always in a hurry
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get the next train or the next bus. But now it's no longer
And
a
like Goa.
train
Yeah.
or bus. But anyways, but yeah, Dubai was fascinating, and it it really helps, because when you're really young as a kid, and you go and live in a foreign country, it opens up your perspectives. Much as Dubai at the time may not have been the really big international city that it is today, it still was a foreign land. So it did open up yourself to a different culture, because I would say that, at least what I learned a lot about the Arab and Islamic culture, and that was really an eye opener in a lot of ways, because you didn't know a lot about them at the time, and there's a lot that you learned about their habits, their the way they speak, what their history was like, what their roots were like, how they came up from just settlements to make such a big city. So there was a lot to learn about it. And interestingly, my cricket love for cricket started over there. Initially I wasn't very much into sport, but then uh, Dubai at the time was very unlike India, because what happened when I went over there was I didn't have friends to play. Like here as a kid in India, you would just go down every evening and play with kids. I'm sure you guys also
Yeah,
did the
yeah,
same.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and those are some of the best memories that you created. But we didn't have those kind of friends. And then I remember when I was in sixth, when I was about 11, and we were all, of the same age group in the school bus. And we were all living in a 1 or 2 kilometer radius. And then we decided, why not we get together and play in an open parking space? So we just started playing cricket in a parking lot over there. And what happened was it ignited my love for the game. At this around the same time, there was a computer game called Brian Lara Cricket. My mother had bought it for
Yeah.
me. So this was around 2001, and then it just grew from there. And as the years passed by, and then there was the 2003 World Cup, the NatWest series that came before it, and it just grew stronger and stronger. And by 2003, I was completely into cricket, and then by then there was no looking back. And when I came back to India, that just grew and grew into a real passion and love for the game. And luckily also, and cricket is something that really brings you together with so many people. Then that's just what sport is. Like even those guys whom we used to play, when we played together, the kind of times we shared, like me and one of the guys, we are really close friends even now.
Oh,
And a lot of the other guys, even when if we meet or if we get in touch, it's just like old times. And that is just because we played cricket together in that phase, and we were really close friends, and we only played cricket over the weekends.
oh, yeah.
Right.
Fridays and Saturdays.
No, at the time in Dubai, it was Thursday and Friday. They
Oh,
Oh,
changed it. They changed it a few years later to Friday, Saturday.
oh, nice. So I worked in Middle East for an year, and then even we used to play cricket in a parking lot because there were no spaces and stuff.
Yes.
So I found memories of that. Yeah. So then, like, why study law?
So mainly because I didn't want to do engineering. That was the reasoning. And at the time, there was possibly a temptation to do BMM,
mhm.
and but then the prospects didn't look all that good at the time, and because you didn't know what exactly we're getting into. Maybe if it was 10 years later, I would have done BMM. I just thought, let's do law. Maybe it's a good degree, and then you see a lot on TV. It may be a lot about going to the courts and arguing, which is not the case. There's a lot of back end work as well.
Right,
So
right.
law just happened, but midway through law school, it was clear that I was not meant for this. So that's how then it stopped. Yeah, just
Then
a
you and then you started blogging, right? There's one particular blog that slightly went viral, right? And I just wanted to understand how did you got into writing about cricket?
So again, this was around the 2011 World Cup, and I had reached a phase where I knew that law was not my calling. It was my third year, but you're in the middle of law school. You cannot change as well. There's no point. You rather complete it. So then I was wondering what is my next course of action,
Mhm.
and I just finished a law internship, and I just didn't like it at all. And then I just thought, World Cup's coming up. Why not start writing a blog? And let's see what happens. I mean, there's nothing to lose if you write a blog every day. And I told my parents, look, World Cup is coming. I want to buy a television connection for my hostel room. There is no chance I'm going without it. It's just 500 rupees a month that Tata Sky was costing. And my parents are like, yeah, okay. I mean, we know for a fact that you will not you won't use it badly, and you'll at least so it's okay. It's for the World Cup. Go ahead and do it. So I put in the connection, and it was a real shift, because I also changed rooms in the hostel. From a part which used to party a lot, I went into a very quieter
Oh,
spot. So my friends with whom I used to party were not very happy. But then I went into a very quieter spot. So it was a complete overhaul, and I started writing about cricket, and then I got in touch with a gentleman called Mr. Natarajan, who had worked with Indian Express and was at a website called Cricket Country, and he was the founding editor, you can say. And Mr. Natarajan was like, he encouraged. He said, you write as much as you can. And I remember my first article was March 4th, 2011, and it's just over 10 years since then. And then one after the other, articles kept coming, one after the other. And then I also remember I bunked a test to come down to Mumbai to watch the World Cup final. I got tickets after all. I didn't know that I was going to watch any more World Cup finals, but I've gone on to watch two more, the following two as well, 2015 and 2019, of course, in working capacities. But yeah, that was what it was. And watching India win, it was really inspirational. Sachin Tendulkar, who was my childhood hero, was lifted right in front of my eyes. In where they had just lifted him, like, because we were sitting right next to the Indian dressing room.
Oh wow!
He was lifted right in front of us, in front of a stand called the MCA Pavilion. And I remember just
Was it very emotional?
it was. And I will tell you, like, you're 20 at the time, and I used to always feel, how can people cry when you're happy? But then when that happened, I still remember sitting down and just weeping for the next maybe 10 or 15 minutes, because that's when it just hit you that it is happening. And once he was lifted on the shoulders and taken around, I just remember sitting and weeping for the next 10-15 minutes. And then that also gave, in a sense, it's like a butterfly effect, like they didn't intend for it to happen, but I'm sure it inspired not just me, but a lot of other people. And it changed the course of my life, because I started believing a lot more that I could go and chase what I really want to do. And it all then started a few weeks later, which was Sachin's birthday. And there was a no ball that was wrongly given. And the no ball was right. Wait, the no ball was not given. Sorry, Sachin was given out to Amit Mishra in an IPL game against Deccan Chargers at Hyderabad. So he was given out because he played one ball too long off, and he was given out. But then the umpire wanted to check the replay for the no ball. One replay showed that the foot was just over the line. The stump cam showed again it was over the line. The third replay showed that Mishra's foot was fine. But what people missed was that in that replay, Sachin was standing right next to Mishra at the non-striker's end, which means it was not of the same delivery, but the previous one. And the broadcasters had made a mistake. And I just casually wrote an article about it, somehow found a YouTube video of it, put the link, sent it to Mr. Natarajan, and went off to sleep because our exams were coming on. Next day, I woke up and I see that my phone has a bunch of messages, calls, and I'm like, what's happened? And I called Mr. Natarajan and he told me, do you know what's happening? This has gone viral. It's all thanks to you. And then people started recognizing. And I asked him, okay, now that this has happened, I'm coming to Mumbai. Is it fine if I come over to the office and intern with you guys? Like, yeah, come over.
So all of this was happening when you were in college?
Yes, all of this was happening in college. Yes. And then he was like, yeah, come over. And I did. And I went on to intern with them. And that's how it all started. And up until 2013, till the year I passed out, every break I used to come and I used to intern with them. And I used to continue to write from college. So, and then 2013, I joined them full time. But a lot of things happened in that time as well. A YouTube channel started. I got my foray into presenting. I also made my debut on television because Neo Sports had invited me on their famous show Dial C for Cricket. So, and they had kept inviting me a few times. So all those things eventually set me up very well when in 2013 I passed out and like, this is what I really want to do. And then I took it on full time. And that was the whole intention. And yeah, that's how it all started.
And we want to talk about your World Cup story a bit. So like you said, you skipped your exams to go watch the World Cup, and then you had a ticket, and then you met Sachin at an event, and then you told him about your article, and then he signed the thing. Can you share a bit about that?
Oh yes, of course. In fact, if you had told me earlier, I would have got that ticket to show you as well.
Oh, right.
But yes, what had happened was the 2011 World Cup. I got the tickets. I remember Pakistan was beaten in the semis. The next day was the
Mohali.
train. Yeah, in Mohali. Next day was the train, and there was a festive atmosphere everywhere in college as well. People who used to not watch cricket were watching cricket. Like girls and boys who were not interested in sport were watching. Like otherwise, we always had in college girls and boys who were interested in sport and used to watch it together.
Right.
So, but then now this was girls and boys also not interested who were watching together. But what worked for me was my uncle was able to get a ticket, and we had a test. And but then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to give this. I have to go for this once in a lifetime opportunity. Luckily, many opportunities that have come and more will come my way as well. And but that one was special because it was obviously for Sachin, and you know, and yeah, I just got into the bus, and I was like we had a college bus which used to go to the railway station. I took it. It was in NLU.
Convince your professor as well, right? That you're missing your exam and stuff.
As it happened was my professor got into the bus at the same time.
Oh.
And he's like, and he was also from he was also Goan origin and everything. So he was like, so where are you going? And he was not much elder to us. He was also in his late 20s probably.
Okay.
So almost the same generation, and someone who had encouraged also me. So in later years. So he was like, where are you going? I was like, World Cup final. Like, kal test hai. I was like, but sir, World Cup final. He's like, yeah, okay, no problem. But yeah, make sure that India wins, and just make sure that you come back when we are winning and all. So he was very nice about it.
Right.
And then I came down to Mumbai, and then obviously we won and everything. But then the year later, when one of my friends, again a college friend, he lives in this place. He used to live in this place called Sahitya Sahvas in Bandra, where Sachin grew up. And because his grandmother was a poet, and as you know, all the literary artists and the prominent ones were given a house in that complex called Sahitya Sahvas, and that was called Kalanagar, because it was an artist's city. So, which is why there were other colonies as well, which had artists who were given houses. So Ramesh Tendulkar, Sachin's father, had a house over there. My friend, his grandmother had a house. So he said, Sachin is being felicitated. Why don't you come? Maybe you can just sneak in a word.
Right.
So I went, and I couldn't believe it that I could literally walk up to him, and people were getting a lot of things signed, and he was more chilled out over there because that was the place where he grew up. So he knew everybody. And even the kids who were going to get things signed by him were introduced by parents, like, or others, like, he is so and so's son, he is so and so's child. So he would ask them about their families, and it was basically like attending a family function, because he knew almost everyone over there. And then I sneak in the middle, and I just give him the World Cup final ticket, and he just reads it, and his eyes his eyes light up. I was like, I was there. He's like, oh wow, and then he just takes it and he's signing it with a smile. And then I told him, do you remember last year during the IPL you were given out against Deccan Chargers? He's like, yeah. And he's like, wait, were you the one who wrote the article? I was like, yes. He's like, good job. And then I just got it, and I shook hands, and I just left from there. I was like, that's enough for the day. And but yes, it also came during a phase where I was entering into my final year, and there were a lot of doubts as to what to do. Other friends were going for their law placements. So it was a phase with a lot of doubts, and there were other things happening. But then just those few words, and again I was like, wow, something definitely can work out and can happen. So let's just keep at it. And luckily I also had my parents who stood by me at the time, and who said, you've put in a lot of work over 1 year, and we've seen you so focused on something, so dedicated, that we have to see where it goes.
Yeah, I think for a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, this is amazing. I mean, this is what dreams are made of.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also because you are willing to put in the effort, you are willing to put in the chances, that a lot of things also happen, and those things happened with me. And to find the parents support at the same time was probably the biggest thing in my life.
In fact, talking about the professor, Kushal, I wish we had such cool professors here.
Yeah,
In professors being cool in
Yeah.
is because a year later, when I made my TV debut, and suddenly in college I'm a different guy altogether.
You're a celeb in college now.
Yeah, although the fact remains that I didn't change a lot because my friends were the same, and and that's what mattered to me. It's just now other people started recognizing, yeah, there is someone. And I was not the cricket crazy freak, but I was someone who was doing something really constructive with my life.
Yeah.
And I remember getting up really late and go walking into class, not expecting that a professor to be there. And I had reached really late. Not only did the professor welcome me in class, but gave me attendance as well. And this was when I had missed half an hour of the lecture. So such things were happening with me.
Even the professors became your fan.
Yeah, and they started supporting. A lot of them started encouraging. And
That's
even
really
now,
good to hear. Yeah.
and even now that a lot of them are on Facebook, and they do comment sometimes, and they do maintain in touch in that way. And it's really, really good to see in that sense.
Would love to know more about the cricket country journey, right? I mean, so you graduated, you ended up working with them, right? How was that phase like?
Cricket country was a lot of learning. It was a lot of information, because at the time we were trying to figure out the internet, what works, what does not work. And at the same time, it was also figuring my way into the world of cricket media. And I was also fortunate that cricket country backed me. And initially they were not open to going on foreign tours, or any tours for that matter. But then they backed me. They sent me to cover the Ranji Trophy final in 2014.
Oh,
Websites were not allowed, but I somehow made my way inside the press box, and I sat and I managed to be there. And what worked was that I interviewed a lot of people in those few days. Then my boss, Mr. Natarajan, could tell the higher ups, look at this, we got so many interviews. Why was this possible? Because we could send people.
yeah.
Okay, that was done. Then um, I had asked, that the under 19 World Cup is going to happen in Dubai. Can I go? They were like, we can't get the funding. I was like, okay. Then my father, he said that, look, nothing's going to happen if you just sit here.
Okay.
You want to go to Dubai, and Dubai is where I grew up. We also had people over there. Look, stay can be arranged. That's no problem. Tickets can be arranged. Everything else can be arranged, Karan. So he's like, I will help you out.
Nice.
So my father gave me the money and said that you go. You just go and cover the tournament. And I did go there. I went to the 2014 Under 19 World Cup, and again, a lot of interviews of people like Greg Chappell, Graham Hick, a lot of big names. I got their interviews. And again, the bosses were like, this is something really good. And initially my application to go to Bangladesh was rejected by ICC. But then under 19 they would approve. So under 19 I went, and then the ICC media guy, Mr. Sami, who's currently heading the Pakistan Cricket Board, one of the finest media professionals you will meet. So Sami bhai at the time told me, "Chalo Nishad, I will see you in Bangladesh." I said, "Kaha? Aapne application approve hi nahi kiya." He's like, "How is that possible?" I said, "It is." He's like, "वजह क्या थी?" I was like, वो reply में आया कि आपने cover नहीं किया है कि ICC tournament. He's like, "Nishad, that has changed now. You have covered this tournament. You have covered it with discipline. Let me have a look at it." So I was like, okay, I didn't expect. Next day, he writes an email to me, "Nishad, you are coming to Bangladesh. I have approved your application." And I was like, wow, this guy, he's a big name in the media industry. He is heading the ICC media comms, and he remembered to change my application status. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I just wrote to office that, this is what has happened. What do you think? The office got back, and they said, okay, go ahead. And yeah, I went to Bangladesh, which was another eventful journey. So all these things really helped, and ultimately they also backed me for the 2015 World Cup. But
Oh,
by the
lovely.
time I finished the 2015 World Cup, I knew it was time to go because I had grown as much as I could. And I felt, at that age, I could take a risk in terms of moving out. And I decided to quit my job and become a freelancer and try and explore various areas. But I will always be grateful to Cricket Country for all the opportunities that they gave me. And that goes without doubt. Of course, people ask why couldn't I have stayed longer? But there was no more growth for me in that place. I had reached a ceiling. And there, me moving out could have also meant others getting opportunities that I got, which
Yeah.
I was lucky with. But yes, I had to move out at the time.
Mhm. So what was the freelancing journey like? I mean, were you writing for others? Were you like shooting videos? And how did you stay at the top of your game while doing freelancing?
So it's a lot of ups and downs. I wouldn't say that it's a smooth ride. It's a lot of ups and downs. And there have been more downs, I would say, than ups. But the ups that come, they are really big highs. So yeah, it does get worth it. And at the same time, I'm still trying to master the game. It's not
Right.
like I have. There are ways to do it. There is still a lot of, I wouldn't say struggle, but a lot of reaching out, a lot of things that you need to do to make it work. But it all started by me doing the 2015 uh, India tour, South Africa tour to India, the test matches. I covered for the BBC Asian Network, and I also did for Sports Dad and a
Right.
few others. But what was interesting on that visit was that test matches were getting over in 2 or 3 days, and I was paid per video, per article, and all.
Right.
and and I actually ended up making losses because the first test match got over inside 3 days, 2.5 days.
This is in Kanpur, I guess.
No,
So maybe Ahmedabad.
first one was Mohali.
Mohali. Okay.
Mohali. Second one was Bangalore, where play was possible on one day and it rained on 4 days.
Oh,
So again, there was no work there. Then it was Nagpur, which got over again in 3 days. Finally, the Delhi test lasted all five
oh
days,
yeah.
and I was happiest over there.
That was
And
De Villiers and Faf du Plessis blocking. I think
yes,
that one.
that blockathon, it was
Yeah.
really enjoyable. And I remember that was also the time where I actually got to interact a lot more with my idol, Mr. Harsha Bhogle. And I remember telling him that, I've quit my job, I'm getting into freelancing. And he's like, wow, you really are a gutsy young man. And I really wish it works out for you and all that. So a few months later, again, sometime no work, but then I again got on the road for the World T20, managed to cover for a few websites, and suddenly Gujarat Lions calls me up. I had gotten in touch for them for a content role. I thought I'll get a small content role. I can do some content for them. They came back with a media manager role. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
this completely changes my profile. A 25-year-old guy going and managing media for stars like Raina, Jadeja, Dale Steyn, Brendan McCullum, Dwayne Smith, and the list
Bravo,
goes on.
Finch. Like
Yeah,
that was a
Brad
star
Hilton,
team.
James Faulkner. We had a very good team.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is an opportunity I can't let go. And I took it. And that changed my life. And that was really the turning point in a lot of ways. And that it helped me grow my stature.
Super interesting. I think would love to know more about how was the experience working with a lot of these players. Any of the interesting stories that you can share?
A lot of them. Because one thing that I really appreciate about these guys, so actually from a challenge point of view, it was really challenging. That whole scenario was really challenging because I was a 25-year-old guy. It was a franchise that was starting off. A lot of people did not know what cricket was, and me being a part of the cricket industry, a lot of the times I had to explain things to them that these are not how things work. These are things that cricketers don't do. These are things that cricketers do. And as that happened, what happened was that anyway, cricketers realized the fact that I knew a lot about them and their lives, their achievements, and I respected them. One thing that sportsmen always like is that if you respect them for their hard work, if you respect their personal space, and personal space not just in their rooms, but space in terms of their gym times and their practice times. If you show them that you respect that, they will never they will give you that respect back. And what then happened was that these guys individually started making efforts to make me feel a part of the team, and later those efforts were collective as well. So in a sense, I survived because of those guys, the team manager and the other support staff. The core team, the coaches and everyone, and the players made me feel a part of the team. Like I will always remember when Brad Hodge, who was the coach, asked me to do a few things, and I did, and I was carrying a lot of stuff. I was like, and I was helping out the manager in a lot of ways. I wasn't just the media manager, but the team manager was like, it's my first time as team manager, we'll do everything. So he was also helping me out in media things, and I was also helping him out. Like I was basically his foot soldier. He would tell me, we need to deliver these jerseys here, we need to get this there, these jerseys should have this kind of print, that those. So I was helping out. It was great learning.
Right. Right.
And I remember, so Brad Hodge asked me to get a few things done for the team room, and I did. And we were flying down to Chandigarh for our first game. And I remember I was in the Rajkot airport, which is just technically just one small room. I was in the Rajkot airport departure lounge, and I was carrying a few things, and I was wearing an Adidas shirt. And Hodgie comes up to me and says, Nish, where is your jersey or your team kit?
Mhm.
I said, I don't have it. He's like, what? I said, yeah, they didn't give me one. Like, wait. He goes to one of the officials. He's like, why doesn't my guy have a jersey? And that's what he says. Why doesn't my guy have a team kit? So the team officials scramble, and from somewhere they get one out. And then he tells them, my kid will always have one because he's a part of the team.
Nice.
And they gave me a
Lovely.
couple more. Yeah, and that really told me that these guys value my presence. And I still have kept those t-shirts with me.
Yeah.
One of them is signed by the team
Oh, wow.
and the players, and the white one, but then I've still kept them because those are memories. Although that was a very turbulent time in terms of adjusting with the management, but it was an amazing time with the players and the support staff because they would do things like this. Then I remember again, we had Mr. Sitanshu Kotak, who was from Rajkot, who was our assistant coach. One day he would randomly pop into my room and say, you know what, my wife has just sent a lot of home food. I know you've not been home for a long time. Why don't you come over and have some of our home food? Do you like thepla and some of the other
Such a
food?
sweet gesture, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They would do these things. Like Ravindra Jadeja was getting married, and I told him that, congratulations on your wedding. And he's like, congratulations kya? Like, tu bhi aa raha hai.
Wow.
Like, I want to see you at my wedding. And what was amazing was when I went and I greeted him on stage, him and his wife, they were really happy to see me. And it was like, when people are making it up or not, but he was like, hey, you're here, like, I'm so happy you're here. It was like that.
It was more of a family-like feeling. Which is
Yeah,
very
it was. And
fantastic.
they did those kinds of things, and like even Rena, for that matter, telling me, when he had a dinner, that, you also come to my house for dinner. And then, when he was doing interviews, he would say things like, the team manager Ali and the media manager Nishad are working very hard behind the scenes. These are not coaches, but these guys are working hard. And he would say that in interviews. And I'm like, wow, this is really great. And Dale Steyn, also, I remember what he did was that then one of the ways that that you're a part of the team is that they play pranks on you.
Yeah.
So Dale Steyn, Aaron Finch, Andrew Ty, they once picked me up and threw me in the swimming pool when I was wearing jeans and the team T-shirt and everything. And then they're like, walk back to your room. So I had to walk through the hotel lobby drenched in water with everyone looking at me. And they all knew that. But then their first thought was they took my phone and wallet out, but then they threw me with my watch on. And then after they got me out, Stain is like, oh my God, is your watch going to be okay? I'm like, don't worry, it's 30 meters resistant. So he's like, okay, we can throw you one more time. So it was, but then he told me, I hope you didn't mind. It was just to show you that, you are also a part of us. And I'm like, Dale, I really appreciated all this because of the fact that, you guys are making that effort to make me feel a part of the team.
Mhm.
And it is something that I will, and there were others also who did the same.
And then,
That's so cool. I mean, like, that sounds like a dream job, and I'm sure you picked up a couple of steps from Bravo as well.
Oh, Bravo was so. Interestingly, Bravo I had known for a few years.
oh,
So I had interviewed him somewhere, and he always remembered me. And when I saw him at events, he would like I would wave to him, he would wave back, or I'd just go and shake hands. He would ask me, mate, how are you? How's everything? So here he was happy to see me, and then it just grew. Bravo is again Bravo is again a prankster because what he would do is like I remember once the team manager had left his door open and he had gone somewhere. So Bravo noticed the opportunity, got into the room and hid behind the curtains.
oh,
Hid behind the curtains, and when the team manager walked in, he just jumped onto him, like that. And he's at the same time. It was because I was walking out. I was because the team manager told me, come into my room. I've got to talk to you about something. And I was going, and I suddenly heard two loud noises, like one guy saying and the other one shouting even louder. Because the team manager was scared. And then he was like, okay, Bravo, I get it. And Bravo, like, look at your face. You are so damn scared and all that. How are you a team manager when you get scared like this? So these things were happening. And then we all actually conspired to prank Bravo as well. And we did the same thing to him in a hotel corridor. Is that
oh,
we called him, we said, can you come down to this room? We've got something to show you. So he goes down, and then we had two doors open and two guys jumped onto him like this.
oh,
And
You
we had
managed to scare him?
yeah, we managed to scare him, and we had set up a couple of GoPros as well,
Oh,
just to
oh,
record the whole moment. And he was scared and he laughed and he's like, guys, I'm going to get each one of you someday. And he didn't, but he kept telling us, you all are on my radar and I'm going to keep getting you someday.
yeah. The setup sounds like a college hostel, to be very frank.
Oh, it was. In a lot of ways, it used to be because you're living together, the guys are together.
Yeah.
So you ultimately end up doing all that. And then there was Heath Streak from Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
who's still a very dear friend. And
nice.
Streaky is the kind of guy who, when he's on field, he's a different person. Very serious. When he's coaching the boys, he is completely meticulous, making those notes, telling them what needs to be done, what shouldn't be done. Is a hard-nosed coach. Off the field, my God, he's a riot. Like his sense of humor is another level. I still remember we were once sitting together after we had won a game. It was a very good game that we had won against Rising Pune Supergiant in in Pune, and it was because Steven Smith had scored 100 in that game, and in spite of that, we had won, chasing down 190 odd, and with relative ease because Dwayne Smith and Brendan McCullum got us off to a flyer. But then I remember we were all sitting in a very good mood, and Streaky was telling us jokes till 2:30 in the morning. Just him telling us jokes. That's it. And it was just that, and the jokes were so was so real and was so realistic. Like he told me, like, there was food in the middle, and he told me, just wait for a while and see that we all are picking up pieces. And when there will be the last piece left on the plate, everybody starts looking at each other. We're like, and we started, and we actually observed, I thought he was right. In a social setting, when that
It
last
happens all the time. Yeah.
everybody starts looking at each other, and he's like, see, I told you. And that's something that I keep doing at every party after that. And then there were a lot of jokes that he kept narrating till 2:30 or 3 in the morning. But then that tells you the versatility of these guys as well. In that when they go into the nets or onto the field, how serious they are. But when they come off it, and when you have won a good game, they know how to celebrate it and also possibly relax one or two guys who've had a tough game.
Yeah. So then, how do players switch off and when the game is done? I mean, how do they switch off and then detach themselves from what happened?
So it all depends on player to player, like what they want to do. I still remember when there was one game where it was about we lost, and we lost two consecutive games. So obviously no one was happy. But after the first game, generally Hoji and the boys were like, everyone come down to the lobby. We'll just sit. It was a garden, and we used to just sit over there and talk. And the talks would be about anything, about cricket, about life, about experiences, about holidays. So these guys also were interested in Indian culture. They would ask questions like, why do we see women wearing the bindi? They would ask those things. They would ask about a lot of festivals. And so, even we would ask them questions about a lot of things. So
Right.
I still remember then one of the games was that nobody was willing to come down, but it was just me, James Faulkner, and Dale Steyn. We were just sitting after the game because others were possibly a little down. James Faulkner didn't have a very good game. Steyn was not playing, but then they just wanted, I think, some company or someone to just sit and talk. And we ended up talking about a lot of things, not just about cricket. We Dale Steyn's friends were around. They were just talking about their experiences traveling around the world. Jimmy Faulkner, like I spoke to him about the World Cup final where he was man of the match, and you know so and those are the things that you learn about. And I realized that these guys are just as human as us. They've had a bad day in the office, but they also need to switch off. And that chat may not have been very long, but it was still a chat that sort of, because I was new to a team atmosphere. I didn't know what it was if someone lost, what it means to people. But here were these guys who were obviously it was very disappointing. You could see it on their face, but at the same time they were making efforts to clear their mind ahead of the next game. And the way they were talking about things that were off the field, about meeting different players around the globe, about their younger days, their early IPLs, what they were learning, and what their coaches were like back home, what their families were like back home. A short chat, and I just realized that these guys were you know completely relaxed. And then we went across to our rooms because we had to sleep, and there was a flight the next day. And I remember getting onto the flight, and I saw James Faulkner in the flight after that, and the smile we gave each other, it was a different one, because we knew that we whatever said and done, we had spoken to each other in possibly a different way. And in a sense it also helped relieve maybe some of the tension, because even I was tense. I didn't know what it would do to a team if you've lost two consecutive games that you shouldn't have, and that would quite convincingly. So but then I also noticed that in a way, if you need to be around these guys, you do it. And not just you know mainly for yourself as well, because being in the room, I wouldn't have learned a lot from these guys. So I used to make sure that I'm around these people, and I learned. And it was not because I wanted to hobnob with them or anything. It was just because these guys unknowingly were teaching me a lot about life.
Like post your Gujarat Lions stint, right? You started working with IPL as a media manager. How was that experience, and how did it happen actually?
So unfortunately, I was not taken back for Gujarat Lions because of the management, and but I knew for a fact that if it was left to maybe players or support staff, they definitely would have wanted me, because we had an excellent bond, and and it was evident even the following year. So luckily, IPL called me up and they said, "Are you available?" I said yes, and I just took up the job. And and it was, and consider this, it was quite a comeback, because losing a contract like Gujarat Lions was not a good thing. It was disappointing, but this was something better. And when I met some of these guys, like even some people in the management who were my friends, even they were very happy for me. They were like, you really got what you deserve, because we have seen you work hard here. And even when I met the players and the support staff, they gave me a lot of warmth even then. So like even when there were interviews to be done and all, the team manager used to tell me, like, we have in the IPL, like as IPL media manager, I have to go and speak to the managers to get interviews done. And during match, and manager used to tell me, go and speak to him directly, you know him. So like, you've got a bond. He's like, you go and talk to him. Only if, of course, there was some, and then I again remember I got into the dressing room to call someone, because we during a game, and Hoji was having a discussion with I think Streak and one of the other coaches. And I get in, and out of nowhere, these guys, like, they stop their meeting and they come towards me, like, hey, you're here, and they just walk, and I was like, wow, this is something really nice. And the same with a lot of the other players as well. Then the IPL experience has been amazing because you go around the country in a short span. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that last year because of the pandemic, and we had to restrict ourselves to one particular spot. But yes, that experience has really lived on, and I've been lucky to do it 4 times over.
I mean, how do you manage an event at such a huge scale in India? I mean, like when IPL happens.
There are a lot of ways. So firstly, you need to know the cultures of each place. You need to know the intricacies of each place, because the thinking of the administration in a Kolkata will be very different from a Mohali or a Delhi or a Mumbai. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of ways. It's a lot about building and managing those relationships. And I think that is the key to staging any event. If your relationships are maintained, people are ready to do a lot of things for you. Like, I remember going to one of the venues and talking to the state association that something like this has happened, and them telling me, oh, you know what, you're around, don't worry, we are coming for you.
Wow.
And they would actually do that, and it's mutual. I would always say, don't build a relationship from the viewpoint of what I'm getting out of it. Build it for the people. There are people, and if you can see the good in people, they will obviously see the good in you. And I think that is what has helped around. Yeah.
I would like to know more about specifically IPL 2020,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how different it was with bio bubble in place, and specifically for you, it must be like, again, IPL at home only.
It was IPL at home, because if it
Yeah.
was Dubai, I'm like, yes, it's in my backyard.
Yeah.
And I remember landing in Dubai, driving past all those areas, reminiscing my childhood. And I'm like, I'm here now. Like, I'm in my land, I'm in my backyard. So the hotel in Sheikh Zayed Road, where I was initially for a few days, my school was like maybe 10 minutes away. And my old home was not too far away as well, because this is the older part of Dubai. Old Dubai was much smaller.
Okay.
But then I was sent to Abu Dhabi, and Abu Dhabi had much stricter laws with COVID and everything, and they had put a tracker on my hand, and I had to be in the room a lot longer. So my quarantine was a lot longer. Eventually, I remember getting out. I mean, one day I did get out, but then, because I had finished my IPL quarantine of 6 days, but then Abu Dhabi government had just instituted a new rule, and I had to go back into quarantine. The tournament started on September 19th. I got out again on September 18th.
Okay.
And it was my first time getting onto the ground, and looking at the new protocols. We couldn't meet a lot of people we knew. My boss was was on the first floor while talking to us, and we would only speak to each other on walkie. It was crazy because we were getting tested every 5 days. And so these things were happening. We had to follow all these protocols. And the hotel was cordoned off, like the part where we were staying. And they had done a phenomenal job, the Fairmont Hotel in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And even the staff became like family, like with us. Like, even when we were leaving, the staff all of them came to say their goodbyes.
And also, speaking about like wrapping up this whole IPL conversation, today a lot of like IPL teams have a huge social media presence, with like Mr. Nags at RCB, the most famous one. So where do you see the future of this social media engagement heading towards?
It's interesting what social media is and where it evolves. You never know. Like, today, there's a clubhouse that has just come, and it has become the latest fad. Instagram managed to knock Snapchat out with stories, and Instagram keeps evolving. Facebook, we felt, was evolving, but Facebook has somewhere lost the plot. Twitter is still around, okay. So I would be lying if I say that I'm a social media specialist, but all I would say is that we've got to be open to whatever lies ahead. And I'm sure the teams also will be open to their presence on social media, and they will be willing to adapt with the times. And you just have to keep your eyes and ears open. YouTube definitely is very, very relevant, and it will continue to be, because it's a one-stop show where a person can watch, like this episode of ours, a person can watch anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for a lot of us.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm sure. Look at your own lives,
Yeah.
and I think that is the consumption where we are able to listen, which is why I think even the more than visual, even the audio part has to be very strong.
Yeah, true.
Got it. But I think everybody is playing around with formats, right? So when a lot of teams are now just making videos of players playing out in nets, capturing small bites every day and pushing out content, right? And there's a lot of engagement happening, specifically this year because nobody's going out in the stadium to watch the match, right? And I think 2021 this year's IPL would be slightly different. I'm expecting, I think, especially after the England series, we expect people to like go and watch the matches, right? Things would again change. I mean, do you see any specific trends or sorts that this would be huge, or you compare it with like a BPL and stuff that would like emerge out as very different?
They'll have to see, because I think maybe you never know. They just create some kind of content and it just goes viral. You never know what goes viral. I mean, to put it very politely, something as stupid as Pari Hori Hai became so popular.
Yeah.
I think that was, to be honest, absolutely mediocre. To be really honest. So you never know with the internet. You know, one day you're here, and the next day you could be a big star. But at the same time, I feel that teams are doing well to maintain their commitment to good content.
You never thought your article would become viral and stuff, right?
Yeah, I never thought. You never know what works.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting for my next thing to really kick on with what I've started at Niche Sports. We are trying to build good, positive content. We don't want to put stuff that is simply catchy or tacky and all. We want to do something that is good and positive. If it inspires a Kushal sitting somewhere, or if it inspires anyone else, it is really amazing. It is really important. And if it inspires someone like an Ayush, to say pick up the sport or to change something, I think that is what our aim is. So, hopefully someday it also catches on.
So, I mean, do you have some idea behind niche sports on like initial hypothesis of where you want to take it forward?
So at the moment, it's all about creating that good, positive, and inspirational content, and provide stories that were not known earlier. Like we recently did on Mr. Sunil Gavaskar, the 6-part series on on unknown anecdotes from his life, previously unknown, like not very well known rather. And then we've also got one more series, or rather we've got an interview coming up with Rakeem Cornwall, the West Indies player. Like I've asked him stuff about how he overcame his challenges to achieve his dream, because he has broken stereotypes. And I told him, it's something that you have done is very inspirational. So we want to do such things.
Got it. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's move to the final section of the session, and I'd love to. This is basically rapid fire questions. So whatever comes on top of your mind, just go for it. Right? So best cricketer you've ever interviewed?
Like the best interview or the greatest cricketer I've ever interviewed?
I think the best interview.
Best interview you feel.
Okay. In terms of stature, the greatest cricketer I've interviewed is Rahul Dravid.
Okay.
Yeah. But in terms of meeting, I've met everyone in the cricket industry as well.
That interview with Rahul Dravid is also your favorite?
In my favorite interview, funnily would be, my favorite interview would be with Sohail Tanveer.
Oh, wow.
And it was because the conversation flowed very naturally. I mean, others were also natural, but I still remember asking him about his story. And like, I asked him, where did this action come from?
Yeah.
And he told me a beautiful story. Like he told me he used to bowl left arm spin, and in under 19 cricket. And he used to bowl left arm spin with a normal action. But in tape ball cricket on the streets, he used to bowl like that with that kind of action. Yeah. And he was called Pankha, by the way, because of the coming that way. So he used to bowl tape ball cricket. He used to bowl that action.
Okay.
And in 2003, he was a part of Lahore under 19 or Punjab under 19. I'm not sure. And South Africa were in Lahore.
Okay.
And it was Graham Smith, Herschel Gibbs, Jack Callis, these guys were a part of the side, and they got local net bowlers. As you know, net bowlers go and bowl into in stadiums in practice sessions for international teams. So he was one of the kids who was asked to come and bowl. He was hardly 18 or 19 at that time. But his friend told him, "तेरे लिए challenge है." He's like, so I hope you don't mind if I just narrate some of it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
He's like, तेरे लिए challenge है. He's like, क्या? He's like, तू आज spin नहीं, तू fast डालेगा, जो तू tape ball के साथ डालता है. He's like, पर मैंने ये कभी किया नहीं है. He's like, do it. His friend just told him, do it, trust me. So Sohail Tanvir takes up the ball, goes and takes a long run up, and he bowls with that action. And guys like Graham Smith, Herschel Gibbs, and Jack Callis are playing and missing, and they are having a tough time. He's like, they had no idea what was happening.
Wow.
And then there was the Lahore or Punjab selector was around, and he's like, "Ladke idhar aa.
Wow.
Spin क्यों डालते हो? यही डालो ना." And then he's like, that day I decided I'm going to be a fast bowler.
Wow.
And I felt that is beautiful. I mean, how one session just changed his life around. And I know he's not had a long career with Pakistan. I felt he should have played a lot more for them, particularly in T20 cricket. But he's gone on to make his name across the globe in different tournaments.
Absolutely. I think the first season with RR, like,
yeah,
what a season he had.
What a season. And then, and why I remember that interview is because I asked him, ki, to, is it because of your of that kind of action and your hand coming that way that you get the ball into the left hander and in away from the right hander, like that angle. So he's like, यार ये ऐसे सवाल मुझे किसी ने नहीं पूछे पहले. He's like, आप क्या कहीं पे खेले हो क्या क्रिकेट? बोला नहीं, बस देखकर मुझे I just felt. He's like, no, this is a very good interview. So, which is why I enjoyed that interview. He really appreciated the fact that I was asking him those questions, and there were other interviews as well. I remember an interview with Harbhajan Singh, and because it was just after the Ranji final in 2014, and he told me, like, I was a young guy, and like I said, Bajjupa, आप interview दोगे क्या? And he's putting his hand around. He knows I'm a kid who's just come in. He's like, नहीं, अभी possible नहीं है क्योंकि match होने वाला है. तुम match के बाद आओ ना, हो जाएगा. He's like, पर he's like, he realized I had that hesitation because बोलते तो सब होंगे पर करता कौन है? Like, मैं करूँगा interview. And he went away. And that match got over in 3 days. It was a rest of India versus Karnataka game. And the IPL auction was going on, and there were live updates on my phone, and everyone was following. And Harbhajan, and he comes, क्या चल रहा है? I'm like, IPL auction का हम लोग देख रहे हैं. अच्छा तेरे phone पे video है? ना नहीं, just updates है. Then he comes and he's also checking, but I think he was already retained by the Mumbai Indians and all. So then then the presentation happened, and then I called out Bajji, and he's like, oh हाँ तेरा interview ना. Then he's like, आजा. And he's like, let's not stand in the sun. So we stood outside the dressing room, there, like the entrance of the dressing room and the side screen. He's like, chal idhar aa. And he gave me a very good interview again, gave me his email ID, told me send it, I will read it and all. So that was something that was really, really nice on his part. And there are a lot of other interviews as well like that I remember. Like my first ever meeting with Dwayne Bravo, he had cracked some very funny joke, and I was literally ROFL. I'm not making it up. It was so funny that I had to pause it for some time because there were literally tears coming out of my eyes.
Oh, nice.
And then he started laughing even harder, looking at me. So, and for some time we had to pause because we were laughing that hard.
Nice.
And, obviously, I can't repeat what he had said, but it was so funny, and I don't know whether he did it to put me at ease or himself, but we were like, we were in splits, all of us.
So West Indian guys are naturally funny.
Yeah, West Indian guys, most of them are naturally, and even the guys you feel who are serious, once they get comfortable with you, they are something else. Then they come up with some of the best ones that I've heard. So
was this the interview that Bravo remembered when you went to
yes,
that line?
Yeah, that was the one he remembered.
Okay. Also, like speaking of interviews, which was your first interview?
First interview of a player, Wasim Jaffer, on the
Oh,
Wow.
phone. Yeah,
the Twitter king now.
Twitter King, yes. And again, credit to the man. I've met him only twice after that, and I interviewed him twice again after that first interview. But the man remembers.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Absolute legend.
yeah, I met him during this IPL, and I'm like, and I had a mask, and I'm like, Wasim bhai, yaad aaya. And he like, then I took the mask off. Then he remembered. He's like, hey, how are you? कैसा चल रहा है? अभी तुम यहाँ हो? कैसे काम है? And he asked me, genuinely. Then I asked him about. I couldn't resist, but I asked him about his Twitter game. I
Yeah.
couldn't resist it, and he also had a smile about it. I'm like, I never knew you had such a hilarious side to you. We
Yeah,
always
yeah.
thought you were very serious, calm,
Yeah.
but this is really amazing to see. So and then, but yeah, that is also another story that I can remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Your favorite sporting memory? I'm sure you'll say about World Cup 11, but apart from that,
The 2019 World Cup final at Lords.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this rapid fire has gone on a little
yeah.
long.
but it's absolute fun to know a lot of these stories.
One hobby you picked up during lockdown?
Hobby. Um I would think I always like cooking, and I used to do it from time to time, but I think it just got better, as it did for a lot of other people.
Yeah, high five. Same here, same here. Who do you think will win this IPL? Like, if you have to place a bet on which team?
Placing a bet is not the right thing to say.
Virtually, I mean, think of it as. I mean, I'm sure you support Mumbai, but any particular team that you feel will win this year?
So for me, it is very difficult to support a team because people across
Yeah.
all the teams.
Yeah.
And in some way, when some team loses, you feel bad seeing them feeling sad, the management in particular. So it's very difficult to pick one. And I think right now the teams have got the right balance. So it will be very difficult to pick who's going to win. But I would say, Delhi Capitals are really building up very well and they have a very good chance. Mumbai is definitely around, but the fact that Delhi Capitals made it to the final last year, and the fact that they've also got their personnel in order, they've got a good team, maybe they are on to something special.
I mean, you have traveled across a lot of like stadiums and stuff. So, which is your favorite stadium?
Favorite stadium in
Yeah.
terms of emotional value, it's of course the Wankhede Stadium.
Yeah.
To work in India, it's Bangalore, but I think it's very hard for anyone to beat the MCG. The MCG was something else, but I feel also, apart from being iconic, it's also a place where you feel at home. So I think the MCG.
Better than Lords?
Yes. See, because stadiums have to be welcoming. Lords has a lot of restrictions, right? The pavilion, you can't do this, you can't do that. But the other ground in England that's really good is just across the river in London itself, which is the Oval. Oval also has a very welcoming feeling.
You mentioned you listen to a lot of podcasts. Any particular podcast that you like a lot?
Yes, Lessons Learned with the Greats by Shane Watson. You must listen to that podcast because he doesn't talk about the game alone, but he also asks these players about managing money, what they do to invest, how they have a financial planner. And these are aspects that are helpful not just for us, but also to players who are earning the big bucks. So I think that's a good podcast.
Right. Which book are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm actually reading, I think, Sticky Wicket by Malcolm Speed, who was the former ICC CEO.
Oh, nice.
One last question. You want to plug in your podcast? I mean, I know we have spoken about it a couple of times, but one last thing.
Yeah, Niche Sports. It's on YouTube. We are on all the social media pages, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We also just started out on Quora and Reddit, I think. And we are around. You can definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. That's where our videos are. That's where everything is. So do join us on our journey as we aim to make a dent in the digital realm of sports, as my manager likes to put it.
Thank you so much, Nishad. It was absolute fun to talk to you, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely. Great conversation. Really loved being here.